Hello and welcome. Today we are going to be talking about online legal services versus an attorney and which one is better for your individual case. And so I'm excited because this is something that needs to be talked about. With everything out there with online, people may think that it's the best choice for them. And the reality is it may not be. And we're going to talk about that today. So please, looking forward to discussing that with you and helping educate you about the difference between LegalShield, LegalZoom versus hiring a private attorney for your legal needs. So let's get started. In case you're new here and you just tuning in, my name is Taylor Darcy from Think Legal, where I help people like you create a business of your dreams intentionally. And so I'm happy you're here. Please, by all means, subscribe to this channel if you're a business owner or if you're looking to become a business owner, because this is what I do. I help people that need this, and that's one of the reasons for my YouTube channel. So please, I'm looking forward to getting to know you. And if you have questions or comments, please leave them in the chat. I am here to answer them and give you the help that you need. So the first reason, and I'm going to give you a brief overview of LegalShield, LegalZoom, and a private attorney. LegalShield it's a network of attorneys that what they do is for a monthly subscription fee, you hire them and they will do certain things on your behalf that a normal attorney can do. The problem is they're a lot like a gym membership. They only really make money if you don't use them. So if it's $30 a month that you're paying, which I believe it's $29, I'm not exactly sure of what the level of it is. They only allow you like one letter per year or one thing per year. They're very limited on what they can do. They can't, or they don't rather, represent you if you're being sued or if you need anything substantial done. So they might review a contract. They might, one thing is what it comes down to. Now there might be different plans and might be things that are higher. But at the end of the day, for that amount of money, it's a lot like a gym membership. The only way they make a profit, you got to look at it from the context of the party. The only way they make a profit is if you don't use them. In fact, I went up against an attorney from LegalShield, and not only was their advice bad, but as I tried to communicate with the other party, he just stopped communicating with me because it was past his what that client had paid him to do. And so you run the risk that with your attorney with LegalShield, that they may not represent you the best to their ability because, well, you're not paying them very much and they don't make a profit that way. And most attorneys, although altruistic in some respects, their main goal is to make a profit. So that's LegalShield. LegalZoom is you pay them to file your paperwork for instance, the Secretary of State or the different various entities if you want to get a trademark, that type of thing. So they are not crazy expensive, but they are expensive for what you get. Here's what I mean for it. Most states have a fairly simple process for filing for an LLC or a corporation. It's not very difficult. Most people can do it. Now, it might be a little intimidating and it might be something where you want somebody else to do it. And by all means, seek counsel. But here's the problem is that LegalZoom especially, they ask you the questions and fill out the forms for you and file it for you and charge you a large amount of money relative to the form that you're filling out. For instance, if you're filling out an LLC, if you're doing it, they ask you the right questions, great. Then they file it and it's about $475 when it's only $75 if you go to the Secretary of State. So it's a huge amount of money that you're paying for them to fill out the form on your behalf. And again, some people that makes sense to them, but here's the problem: is it doesn't necessarily adequately protect you. And here's why. For instance, if you want them to fill out your statement of information, which is another thing that that you need, then they charge you extra for that. If you need a registered agent, they charge you extra for that. And which, that's okay. But the idea being that I went up against somebody that had LegalZoom for their registered agent, and they didn't pass along the paperwork in time, and the company that they represented ended up getting sued because of it. And so they fall down on the job a lot. And then the next part of it is that they can't practice law. And so the real risk is that they don't know what they don't know. And so or rather you don't know what you don't know. And so asking the questions that it's important for you to know isn't going to help you. So that's LegalShield. They really just fill out the paperwork for you. That's it, because they can't give you legal advice. It's against the law for them to give you legal advice. They're not an attorney. Okay. Otherwise, that's what's called unauthorized practice of law. It's technically a misdemeanor. So that brings me to why we're discussing these things today. And this is why it's so important that you know your rights and you know what you need. Because unfortunately, there's two things. LegalShield and LegalZoom will only sell you what you ask for. They're in the game to make money, which every person is. I mean, we're not, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with wanting to make money. I mean, as a business owner, that's your goal. But the big problem is that they won't tell you what you need past what you ask for. They might make suggestions, but they don't, but they're, the way it's structured is it's very much, an extra $100 for this and an extra $1,000 for that. And it's an extra blah, blah, blah. And so you run the risk of they suggest things that either you don't need, or they don't suggest things that you do need. And so then you run the risk of not being completely protected by them. And LegalZoom especially came about because a lot of attorneys charge a lot of money. They got really crazy greedy. And rather than charging reasonable amounts for their fees, despite the reason that they should, they charged absurd amounts of money for it without delivering a ton of value. And so they found LegalShield or LegalZoom found this niche where they could make money by charging you to fill out the forms for you on your behalf. And so the big issue is you've got to do what's right for your business, because at the end of the day, not only is it your business, but please do not be penny wise and pound foolish. And we'll talk about that in just a second. So now that you know the difference between LegalShield, LegalZoom, and a lawyer, let's talk about what it means to have these, what the differences are and which one's better for your needs, right? So just so you're clear, a lawyer has what's called a fiduciary duty to their client, which means that we have to put our interests, or your interest rather, the client's interests, up there next to ours, right? We can't charge you for things that aren't in your best interest. And so we really we're supposed to, again, not all attorneys are the same, so you don't lump us in the category that every attorney does or does not do something. But we have an obligation to do it. And so when we look at things like what's best for you as a company based on your goals and your growth desires, we're doing it from a point of knowledge as opposed to a point of sales, right? Because I mean, yes, things might cost more, but at the end of the day, we decide or we discuss with you what's best so that you're getting exactly what you need and not just what we want. And that's a big difference between us and LegalShield and LegalZoom. is that there's really no. We look at it from the holistic perspective and say let's get you the best deal possible or get you the best situation possible. So that's the fiduciary duty factor. As I said earlier, online services give you what you ask for, not necessarily what you need. And this is a big deal because if they don't know that you need this X thing, then they're only going to give you what you're asking. And in some instances, that's fine. In some instances, they always try to upsell. I went on their website one time to try to just see what they offered, on behalf of my clients and making sure that I'm doing my clients a good service. And the upsell was absolutely insane. You start out with, oh, I just need this. Oh, but what about that? Oh, what about this? And it went from being, a couple $100 that I thought I could afford, you know what I mean? Like from that perspective to quite a bit of money relative to it. And then when I actually looked at what they gave you, it was insanely, it was just not reasonable, not for the value that you got. The next thing is they have no guarantees. Online services have no guarantees that they did what they did correctly. And I've had more people than I care to talk about. I mean, I've had tons of clients come to me and say, LegalZoom did this or LegalZoom did this, and they won't fix it. And I'm like, they won't fix it because they don't have any incentive to fix it. They'll charge you more money to fix it, but they won't fix it. And it can cost you a lot more money to fix it than it did if you just do it right the first time. Versus most attorneys that I know, and myself included, if I make a mistake or if I make an error, I eat that cost. I fix it. I go through and I make sure that I've correct the error rather than hurting my client. And so, yeah, I'm human. I've made I've made a mistake occasionally, but I go back and I fix those things and I try to make it right. And so, that is what you should expect, right? If someone makes a mistake, fix it. But LegalZoom doesn't. In fact, I had a call not too long ago from a potential client that the reason why he was calling me was because LegalZoom screwed their paperwork up and then wouldn't reimburse, and it cost them more money, and it was just absurd. And it took forever. Like, we're talking months. Now, that being said, we are in the middle of currently in the middle of a pandemic. So I understand that time can be an excess factor, but it hasn't slowed down that much. I mean, like, you can still get stuff done. It shouldn't be done in months. It should be done in a month or two, maybe, not, several, 5, 6. This potential new client was 5 or 6 months between when they found the error to when they actually got it fixed. And so there's a huge trust issue that goes with that. So, as I mentioned earlier, online legal services like LegalShield or LegalZoom can't practice law, and so they can't give you legal advice. All they literally can do is fill out forms. And so when we go to law school, so to kind of give you context, part of our job becomes spotting issues. We look at things, and based on the law, we figure out what could happen in a matter. And so we look at this and we go, okay, we try to look at the horizon and see what issues you'll face over the long term. And that's how we're able to give you legal advice that's solid compared to people that don't. Like, you can Google a lot. The problem is Google only answers the question that you're asking. It doesn't necessarily know that you need to ask that next question after that. Like, what about this? And it's the old adage, you don't pay the plumber to fix the pipes, you pay the plumber to know where to bang, to know where to fix the pipes. And that's a lot of what an attorney does. We are there to help fix the pipes of your business, but you're not paying us to fix them. It's to us the wisdom, the knowledge that goes with it. And online service and LegalZoom can't do that for you. They don't know that. They don't know what it is that you need. And they don't know the questions that need to get asked in order to determine what they need. or what the client needs. And so it's this really funky relationship where they charge you quite a bit of money relative to what you get, because they're not necessarily the most expensive, and frequently attorneys are more expensive. But at the end of the day, we get more, you get more value and more protection for your money than you do if you go through LegalZoom. And that brings me to the perhaps last point, is that every time someone has gone to LegalZoom and then needed something fixed, it is so much more expensive for me to fix it after the fact than it is to do it right. And I have helped so many entrepreneurs fix it compared to LegalZoom because they'll have come and they'll do LegalZoom will do something, and I'll have to go back and go, okay, well, they didn't do this correctly because you didn't know. It isn't your fault. You were depending on them to do the right thing, and they didn't, right? And they can't because of how hamstrung they are with the practice of law issue. So you run this thing that you're paying a lot of money, and you end up paying even more to somebody to fix it. And so it is always, always, always better to get it done right the first time and through the right way, so that you are not being hurt by these by LegalShield, LegalZoom. And so you need to look at these critically now. And I'm gonna, we're gonna be finishing here in a moment. I know that some of you are going to say, well, of course you say that. You're an attorney. Of course you're biased against LegalShield and LegalZoom and these other types of online services like Rocket Lawyer or that type of thing. And I completely understand where you're coming from, but I want to address that my experience with these have been because I'm an attorney, right? Because I've seen the flip side of it. I've seen the people that have hired them, and then they come to me, and then I have to fix things. We're not talking that in all instances it makes sense to always use an attorney. But I can tell you that of the people that I've helped fix LegalZoom's mistakes, almost all of them are better off having not gone to LegalZoom. And so that is very important that you know that, yes, I am biased naturally, but that you have to understand that I do my best to not be biased. Hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.